I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we respond to your requests and do a show that was suggested to us via email.
Let's do this. I was doing something today that I don't do so often anymore. That is, put gas in my car. You know, now that I don't drive to the middle of nowhere every day, I just drive to a train station that's 5 minutes from my house. I get gas rarely. So I'm at the gas station pumping the gas, and this guy, there's two guys in their car at the other pump, and the guy's like, "Hey, how fast that go?" And I'm thinking he's talking about the gas pump, because, you know, some gas stations, they fiddle with the pump to scam you out of some money, and then they don't give, you know, they make the pump like the counter goes a little slower and the gas comes out or something like that.
See, while I know they check gas stations very rigorously, I remember a case in Michigan, back when I was a kid, where they caught a gas station where they had a lamp, and if you turned the knob on the lamp, it didn't turn on the light in the lamp, it switched all the gas pumps to rip people off. And they knew what the inspectors looked like, so they watched, and whenever those people were there, or whenever they knew they were coming, they'd make them legit, and then they'd put them back otherwise.
Wow.
So the fact that they got caught gives me a little bit of hope that people look into those sorts of things.
Yeah, plus there was some lady yelling about the gas being $3.20, and I thought that maybe they were, you know, wondering if my gas pump was, like, scamming or something. But then they're like, "No, man, your car." And I'm like, "My car?" Like, it's kind of fast.
Scott drives a normal Mazda 3. It's nothing special.
It's a 2006 Mazda 3 hatchback. And I'm like, it's got like 150 horsepower, whatever. These guys were driving like a late 90s Lumina. And, you know, they were like, "Oh, something. And I'm like, all right. They're like, "How much that cost you?" I'm like, 19 something. They're like, "That's not bad." I'm like, "No, it's all right. Yeah, it's a good car." And they're like, "Hey, those taillights, are those a custom job?" I'm like, "No, it came like that. I didn't change anything on this car." The guy's like, "Whoa, you must race that thing, huh?" I'm like, "No, not really. I drive to the train station."
Has this guy never driven on a freeway? There's like millions of Mazda 3s everywhere. There's like 12 in the parking lot of my work.
I don't know, man. If they were wannabe racers or whatever, I have no idea. But they were okay guys. But I just thought it was kind of weird that I'm just sitting there with my car, filling it with gas, a perfectly normal car in every way, and some guys think it's like an awesome rice rocket.
Somewhat ill-informed, I guess, about the world.
Well, at least about cars.
Speaking about cars, I'm running into this issue more and more, but a lot of times, because I work in Yonkers, usually, I drive down to a bunch of different places to eat, or sometimes I walk, but one of the places I go to is next to a grocery store and a bank. And because it's during the day, the only people who are ever at that grocery store or bank are old retired people. And I have never, ever driven to this parking lot without running afoul of old people who can't drive, causing all sorts of havoc.
Ugh.
And today was perhaps the most egregious of them all. I'm pulling in, and there's this woman who looks like she's about 100,000 years old in this gigantic white SUV. And I'm behind her. So I'm waiting, and she's like pulling up slowly, and it looks like she's going to pull into the bank. And then she just stops in the middle of the road, parks her car, gets out, and goes into the bank. Door open, car just sitting in the middle of the road, blocking it. Not even just like in her lane, but in the middle of the road.
I would have stolen the car. I would have gotten into it.
She took the keys with her.
She left the door open?
Not all the way open, but the door's just kind of hanging open, and the car's just stopped there. And she goes into the bank.
I would have just held the horn down and not let go of it. Or I would have called the police and said, "Tow this car."
See, I cared so little, I just parked and got my pizza.
Oh, so you were able to park?
Well, I just went around her. I can maneuver my car.
Oh, well, you know, the streets over there are usually narrow, so I was thinking maybe you wouldn't be able to get around.
No, I could definitely get around.
A giant white SUV in the middle of the road, you know.
No, if I couldn't have gotten around, I would have been on the phone with the police before you could blink.
Oh, okay. I just had the picture of the couldn't get around in my mind.
Now, I don't know what to do about this issue, because people, just because someone's old, they still have a right to get around. But at the same time, they shouldn't be piloting large, dangerous vehicles if they don't have the mental capacity to properly do it.
I think that no one should be piloting large vehicles unless they can prove they have a need for them. You know, it's like, you know, sure.
Well, not just any vehicle.
You have a right to buy a vehicle, but you shouldn't be allowed to drive it in New York City unless you're filling it with people and stuff. You know, it's like...
What about freedom?
Yeah, there is a freedom, but you're hurting others, and thus your freedom ends.
What if you drive it very well?
you make it difficult for others to drive because they can't fucking see around your vehicle.
But then all delivery trucks and everything are just as bad, in fact, worse.
Yeah, maybe they should deliver something besides
Plus,
trucks.
honestly, people who complain about not being able to see around or past SUVs is kind of lame. And
Really? I often have that problem where I'll be like at a stoplight and like I'll have this SUVs in front of me and I basically just can't see anything and have to trust, wait for the SUV to get out of the way and then I can resume driving.
I've never had that problem.
I've had that problem quite often.
All right.
Or like I'll be trying to turn right and an SUV will be in the left next to me trying to turn left. So I got to look to the left to see if there's a car coming before I could turn right. But I can't see because the SUV's in the way.
But the SUV doesn't really block your vision much more than a minivan or a Jeep or even a lot of sedans.
I don't know. It just every time it happens where I can't see, it happens to be an SUV.
I don't know about that.
I'm telling you, a Corvette couldn't possibly block my vision.
Anyway, I'm just more of the mind that people who can't pilot vehicles properly shouldn't be able to pilot them.
That's also true.
Because also, at my work, very recently, it was yesterday, but I didn't talk about it yesterday, there was a gigantic accident, like gigantic, and there were like 4 fire trucks and all these ambulances, and it totally blocked the road near the sawmill. And it's at this big intersection, but if you look at the intersection, there is absolutely no way you could hit anyone there unless you were a complete and total jackass.
Well, you ran the red light or something.
No, you're running the red light because people run the red light anyway. You would have had to come up to the pre-existing red light somehow without anyone being in front of you or been sitting at the red light and then suddenly decided to just gun it. That's the only way there could have been an accident. There's no way to hit anything there.
All right.
And the thing is, there's accidents there about every couple weeks.
Yeah, this is why I don't drive in the city, and it's also why I don't drive in Florida, because Florida is pretty much the worst place to drive in the world. The roads in Florida are actually nice. They're really long. They have a whole shit ton of lanes, and the blocks they're big and wide, and it's all a grid. But there's so many old people on the roads that it's just the most dangerous roads in the universe. Despite the fact that if there were only people who could drive on those roads, they'd be the safest roads in the universe. They're the best roads and the best cars and the worst drivers. And it's more dangerous than New York City, which is perhaps the most dangerous roads.
I mean, the thing is, the only roads that are really dangerous in New York City are the commuter roads during the commuter times. Every other time, it's just slow or there's traffic or whatever, but it's not like people are dying.
No, but I'm saying, like, the roads in the city, like, are far narrower, and there's a lot more traffic going on, and a lot more opportunities for, like, all sorts of fender bendering and all that kind of.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just generally a very unique experience driving in the city often, because you pretty much have to do what's right as opposed to what the law says.
Yep.
And there's a lot of times where not only should you run the red light, not only are you expected to run the red light, but the cop who's behind you will force you to run the red light just because you're in his way.
Yep.
I had that happen to me once.
Yep. But yeah, if we took the Florida drivers and put them on the city, and we took the city drivers and put them in Florida,
New York City,
there wouldn't be any accidents in Florida, and all the old people would die.
New York City, Florida roads aren't really so great.
Florida road, they're really awesome. They're big, straight, wide roads with a million lanes, and there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah,
it's a perfect grid of awesome.
Roads with a million lanes are actually generally pretty bad and inefficient. I read a cool article about it, how once you get beyond a 2 or 3 lane road, those extra lanes cause a lot more problems than they solve, and the extra lanes would be much better served instead of having those by just having other roads elsewhere or more efficient roads.
Yeah, that's the thing. Florida doesn't have too many roads total. It's generally like these big, it's like a grid, but the grid is like these giant blocks, and the giant blocks are just filled with a zillion condos. And then like you turn off the giant road into the condo place, and then it's just condos.
Yeah, everyone I know in Florida says it's actually generally hard to get anywhere, and it's kind of a pain in the ass, even without the traffic, just the roads.
I don't know. I think it's mostly the old people that make driving in Florida.
Besides, we can't complain about anywhere because we have driven in New Jersey, perhaps the worst place in the world to drive, other than, I don't know, India?
Yeah.
We saw that
Imagine
video.
if there were more old people in New Jersey than there already are.
They wouldn't be able to find their way to the Garden State, so it wouldn't matter.
I guess.
All right, so what do you got?
All right, in the news. Now, we've been talking about this Obama guy. You probably heard of him, even if you're not from the U.S. He's running for president, or he's going to try to run for president. He's seeking the Democratic nomination and such. When's the election? Next year, I think, right? Yeah. And, I was kind of lukewarm on all the candidates. I was a little up on Obama over other people because he seemed cool. He had a podcast. He's very anti-corruption, which I agree with. I don't agree with everything he's got, but I don't agree with anything
What
got.
do you disagree with?
I don't know.
Oh, huh.
But I'm pretty sure I don't agree with him 100%.
Uh-huh.
I don't agree with anyone 100%.
All right.
There's no way, because I'm sure he doesn't say.
Well, how does
that,
Obama stand on gun control, Scott?
I don't know.
How does he stand on technology issues like net neutrality?
I have no idea.
Uh-huh. Where does he stand on freedom of speech issues?
I'm pretty sure he likes the freedom of speech.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't really matter. Point is, I was kind of lukewarm, mostly because, Rim just pointed out, I don't really pay that much attention, so I'm lukewarm on anything.
See, unlike Scott, I actually pay a lot of attention to politics, and now that I listen to It's All Politics from NPR News, they talk a good game. They talk about politics the way football people talk about football.
Yeah, I just don't care. But now, Obama has done something. He has done something that basically negates anything else he has ever done.
He has proven. It doesn't matter what his stance is.
It doesn't matter. Obama could say tomorrow that he thinks that we should kill all the Jews, go start war with the rest of the entire world, nuke everybody. He could say all those things, and I would still vote for him because of what he has just done. He has said that he thinks that the presidential debates should be licensed with the Creative Commons license. Now, not only is that an obvious thing that should be, I mean, obviously, they don't, of course the kind of thing should be done with the Creative Commons license. It's obvious. But the point is, he has proven he knows what a Creative Commons license is.
See, even if he had said nothing should be out on the Creative Commons, he said those two words. Those two words probably mean nothing to anyone else in the United States government at all. You say those words and they'd say, what?
And if you've read Sanctuary, you'll know the problem is old people.
Funny
old
how it comes full circle.
Old people who don't understand what's going on in the world. And Obama, regardless of his stance, if he knows what Creative Commons is, he understands what's going on in the world. He knows. He's not one of these clueless old people who thinks it's a series of tubes. He knows the Creative Commons. And therefore, even if he thinks we should do crazy stuff and have the death penalty if you rob the convenience store, I'll still vote for him because he knows.
See, the thing is, there is the chance that he does this. He probably has an aide who was like, you should do a podcast. Maybe he didn't know what one was, and they convinced him to do it. And now they're like, hey, say the words Creative Commons the next time you talk, and you get all the nerds to vote for you.
You want me to read exactly what he said?
Sure.
All right. I am a strong believer in the importance of copyright, especially in a digital age, but there is no reason this particular class of content needs the protection. We have incentive enough to debate. The networks have incentive enough to broadcast these debates. Rather than restricting the product of those debates, we should instead make sure that our democracy and citizens have the chance to benefit from them in all the ways that technology makes possible. Your presidential campaign used the internet to break new ground in citizen political participation. I would urge you to take the lead again by continuing to support this important medium, blah, 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 blah. So there you go.
Well, I think it's safe to say, because even if this is just all his aides and advisors telling him this stuff, doesn't matter because they're the ones influencing him.
Yep, it's a letter that he sent to the DNC asking them to license the debates under Creative Commons Attribution License.
Yeah, it's still too far out for us to do anything, but we definitely here at Geeknights take the stand that the media, I mean, back in the day, newspapers and news stations, whatever, would always endorse candidates. And they'd be straight up partisan. We, the people of this Chronicle of Gotham, say that Joey Jojo Shabadoo should be the president.
That's the worst name I ever heard.
Joey
Wait,
Jojo.
come back, Joey Jojo.
And we're pretty much real close to just saying we're going to endorse Barack.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay.
We endorsed Spitzer for less.
We did, and he's anti-video game.
Yeah, that didn't come out as much until after we endorsed him. In fact, we considered revoking our endorsement. Not that it matters.
Not that it matters. He won 70% of the votes.
Yeah,
God, that's a
of course.
lot of...
Now, because of him, our friends who work for the government can't surf the web at work anymore.
Well, you know what? While our friends, it sucks for them, I support not having government workers waste time browsing the web that shouldn't be. So that's good. All right.
So, in semi-related news, and I bring this up only because I didn't see anything else worth talking about, and the two other stories I'm thinking about talking about, I have to verify because they seem a little dubious to me.
Yeah, there were some newses that we can't 100% verify. Like, if these are real newses, wouldn't they be in real newspapers, like from the town or state that these events happened in? And we looked at the newspapers from those towns and states and did not find these newses. Therefore, we're pretty sure it's just a bunch of hokey. And yet again, the unscrupulous video game media has fallen for some bullshit rumors.
Video game media.
Yeah. Why don't you try verifying that shit next time?
Just related to all this, Barack, additionally, it's always Barack, is currently, according to the news, being placed under protective Secret Service, well, I guess protection.
So he's got the men in black following him around, make sure he doesn't get killed?
Yeah. Now, apparently, as his campaign has gone on, he's been receiving ever-increasing amounts of hate mail, death threats, all sorts of things like that.
That's expected.
The government must just feel that he is a serious candidate who has a very good chance of winning because they're putting him under Secret Service protection at this early stage, which isn't that uncommon. The Secret Service will often start protecting potential candidates for the presidency long before the election.
Yep. Also, think about this, right? Imagine if Barack was assassinated today. Just imagine if it happened, right? Just, pretend.
I'd lose all faith in American government.
Well, no. But think about what kind of craziness would happen because of that. Like, how crazy would... There'd be a whole mess of people who would just go nuts. Like, there might even be, like, riots in many places. Therefore, regardless of whether he is going to... They think he's likely to win the presidency, they protect him for the security of the country because he is someone who, if killed, there would be riots. So they're going to make sure he doesn't die.
Most definitely. Though I find it funny that at the end of the article I looked at, it just notes that Hillary Clinton, because she's the former first lady, already has Secret Service protection.
Huh?
It's like they're trying to, Obama was in the news. We got to make sure Hillary's in the news a little bit too.
Yep. Well, I mean, if I was like a senator, which they both are, I wouldn't have the Secret Service protection all the time, and I probably wouldn't be a super important senator, so they probably wouldn't force it on me. But I might, from time to time, say, hey, can you send me some guys to make sure I don't get, beat up over here? All right, cool.
Things of the day.
All right, so, well, you probably don't know this because you're probably some sort of geek who doesn't pay attention to what's going on in the world. But there is a huge fight, like the fight of the year, and it's this Saturday, May 5th, probably on pay-per-view, but I don't recommend paying for pay-per-view. Go to, like, some sports bar if you really want to see it. But it's Oscar De La Hoya versus some pretty guy, Floyd Mayweather, who doesn't look like he's ever had a fight in his life, which means he must be pretty good.
So he's like Vega.
He sort of looks like a Vega, I guess, yeah. But anyway, and in the forum, people have been discussing, the MMA, which is the mixed martial arts sort of fighting, like, the Pride and the K1 and all that sort of crazy stuff. And it came down to the old, well, here's the problem with, martial arts for entertainment value. The most entertaining martial arts are the kind with lots of punches and kicks and jump kicks and maneuvers and possibly weapons and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to actual hand-to-hand fighting with no weapons and no magical powers of Hadoukens or anything like that, the guy who's going to win most of the time is a guy like Zangief. He just grabs you and doesn't let you move. That's why if you watch like a street fight, 90% of the time it ends up on the ground because the more realistic a fight is, the more boring it is. And that reminded me that my favorite form of fighting for entertainment, other than the barge, is plain old boxing. Because whether you've actually ever watched plain old boxing, or you just don't seem to care about it because it's not that popular unless there's like a giant fight going on, it's actually pretty good. And there's a reason that guys like Muhammad Ali are so famous. And you're probably a geek, so you might not have ever even seen Muhammad Ali fight in your life. You might know the name Muhammad Ali and that he's some great boxer of all time.
You might have heard float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Yeah, you might know all the stuff. You might have heard of Rocky also, but Rocky was a fictional character. But you might have ever watched Muhammad Ali actually fight someone. Well, here's a video of Muhammad Ali versus Brian London in 1966. Now, the video starts with Muhammad Ali dancing around the guy, punch here, punch there. And then, as he gets the guy into the corner, just watch what he does. It's absolutely amazing. It's like, holy shit. Look how many punches he throws. It's like fucking Kenshiro. It's like... It's almost inhuman. Like the level, the quickness, and the number and the force of the punches that this guy throws. And whether you care about boxing or even if you detest all violence, think boxing is a barbaric thing that should never be watched, look at this and maybe you'll have some respect for amazing people with amazing talents.
Well, right along those lines, since Scott was doing a boxing thing and I didn't see anything particularly interesting on the internet, I remembered that when I was a kid, I would go to see hockey games in Detroit. And there was this statue near the Joe Louis Arena, which was basically a gigantic fist hanging from some kind of triangle structure. It was in fact titled The Fist. The fist is none other than the fist of Joe Louis. Who was
Did they actually take his fist and model it?
You know, I don't actually know any of the history of it other than that it is supposed to be Joe Louis's fist.
I'm going to look this up right now.
Yeah, it's called The Fist, so I'm sure you can find it. Anyway, Joe Louis is also one of those famous boxing names you probably hear. Oh yeah, Joe Louis, he beat that Nazi, whatever. And here's a video of him beating that Nazi. The guy wasn't actually a Nazi, the guy he fought, Max Schmeling. He was just a German he had to fight him to prove that, yeah, the master race is superior, and kind of got shown up. Didn't look too good.
All right, so you might remember last week we said, hey, listeners, give us some ideas for Thursday shows because we don't have so many. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We ask for ideas for shows quite a bit, and we receive not a whole lot, but plenty of show ideas. The thing is, we just veto the vast majority of those ideas.
Well, it's usually a pocket veto. We just ignore them and then they disappear.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's not because we think the ideas are bad, even though some of them are bad. It's usually because we say either we can't talk about this for more than 25 minutes,
or it'll require research and we're busy, or it's an idea that we've been planning to do later once we have some factor that we haven't decided yet.
Or it's something we don't know much about, or something we don't care about, or something we have nothing to say about, or there's some reason that we pocket veto so many of the ideas people gave us. Well, I've decided, and I guess Rim has agreed, that what we're going to do is we ask for ideas. It would be kind of asshole-ish of us to just not go with those ideas. Also, it would be much more difficult for us to sit around coming up with a new idea, and it's a lot more time-consuming than to just go with some idea that someone sent us, for better or for worse. Oh, that's another reason we used to veto ideas, because we didn't think that they would be entertaining shows. Well, we're just going to follow your ideas and do exactly what you say, and if it doesn't turn out good, you asked for it. You got it.
I don't think it'll be an issue.
I don't think it'll be such an issue. Also, I think it'll be good for us to do shows on topics or things that other people have chosen, sort of forcing us to do some work and not just go along our usual course of thinking.
So, of course, the email we pick is one that only asks about us, so we don't have to do any prior planning or research whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it'll still be interesting. All right, this email is from Christian. His name is Christian. I'm pretty sure it's a guy. I don't know if he is a Christian, but that's not a problem. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll read.
That was some pretty lame banter.
Yeah.
That was really bad. That was like the guy running the bingo event says something after he calls the number, like, B2, a bomber. That's what you just did.
All right, so his email's really short,
and grammatically incorrect.
It's very grammatically incorrect. Shame on you.
I don't see any punctuation. I'm sorry, dude.
I see some hyphens. I see a question mark. I see a comma, another comma, a slash. There's no periods.
Oh, there is a question mark, but it's after a space, kind of by itself.
There's an apostrophe.
I'll also point out, and I find this funny, that most of the emails we get are people sending them to us from work. But more importantly, this particular one, I just want to note that the disclaimer that your work puts on the end of your email is far longer than the email you sent.
I guess that's why we picked this one, because it's nice and short. Of course, I don't think our discussion that will take up the whole show will be as short as the email itself. All right, so let me read this email. There's only one sentence in the email before the actual questions. And he says, okay, the topic of the email is an easy/lazy Thursday episode. Oh, good. Appreciate you may not know the answers to the following, comma, but you could do a running dialogue/argument on your views on the following.
All right. I don't think we need to read them all. I think we'll just go through them.
All right. The future of Geeknights.
See, we've been talking about that a lot lately, internal to our little geek enclave here. Partly because a few weeks ago, Scott comes to me all high and mighty and starts talking about how we need to do something that's never been done with audio before and transcend podcasting and become something beyond, on a fundamental level, anything that has ever been done before with audio.
Yep.
And I said, Scott, that's silly. Audio by itself is pretty well understood.
Yeah, the technology is understood, but in terms of the art, that's what I'm talking about. You know, like you can go and
See,
you can
he
watch.
didn't actually have any idea at all. Any concrete
Because I'm
anything.
not an artist, it's like, so I don't know.
That's like going to an athlete and saying, yeah, just run faster.
That's exactly what I basically said, yes.
Not even that. It's like, transcend running. Why are you running? There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, and I don't know the better way, but I look at other mediums of artwork. You know, you look at movies, right? And there are just some movies that are sort of above and beyond all other movies in just, you watch them and you get this feeling that nothing else gives you. Like you watch a Citizen Kane or a Godfather or something like that.
That's just a very well done movie. A very well done podcast or a very well done radio show is no different.
But it's not like it's just giving me the same feeling other movies give, only better. It's like on a completely other level. You know, it's like on the same level, like, you know, Mona Lisa compared to all the other paintings, or David compared to all the other sculptures. You know, it's just.
See, I don't know. I don't feel that. It's a lot better. Very well executed, very well done, but it's not transcendent.
Oh, it's like I read a Will Eisner comic. It's just so far above and beyond every other comic. Like, they can't even come close.
Yeah, but it's still just a comic. It's like we're still just doing audio.
Yeah.
What would you do with audio other than have a better show? Because the thing is, the only reason I nitpick on Scott here is that he brings this up. All right. So how are we going to do that?
If I knew that answer, would I still be here, or would I be a world-famous radio artist that would be remembered in history books for centuries?
Obviously, the key component of something like that is that it is executed very well. So I say, all right, why don't we put some effort into executing Geeknights better? Let's listen to old shows, do some criticism, look at them, fiddle with the audio, fiddle with our format a little bit, fiddle with our pre-production. And Scott basically said, nah, not going to do any of that.
Yeah.
Thus,
I don't have time for that shit.
Oh.
Plus, somehow I don't think that's, you know, small stuff like that is what I'm thinking about here.
But your small stuff like that, David is just a very well sculpted thing. It took a lot of practice, a lot of planning, a lot of skill.
It's true.
It's not transcendent or special in any way other than it was very well executed.
I don't know.
Well, how is it transcendent? How is it different?
I don't know, but I'm sure if I went to art school, I could come back and tell you.
See, I don't think you can. And I really think it's funny because usually this kind of argument is the other way around. But you're just full of sophistry and rhetoric and little else at this point.
Perhaps, but you know, it's sort of like I know something when I see it. Like I don't know shit about boxing, but I just told you, and I know watching it that was an amazing piece of boxing by Muhammad Ali right there. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't tell anyone how to do it.
But do you really know, or do you know because someone told you?
No, I just you can tell by looking at it because it's just so amazing that you have to be an idiot not to see it. You watch that and you just go, whoa, holy shit. So I want people listening to Geeknights to go, like, they put their headphones on, they should go, whoa, holy shit, the same way I do when I watch Muhammad Ali beat the crap out of somebody.
There's nothing different you can do with audio. The only thing different we could do is be technically better.
Somehow I think there are ways to improve the show besides technical superiority.
Well, you realize technically better includes format, editing, pacing, all the elements that come together to make the show. So I really don't see where you're going with this.
If no one saw Muhammad Ali doing that before he did, you know, you have to be. It's one thing to say, man, I'm going to be like the greatest ever, and it's another thing to actually be able to be the greatest ever. I don't really think we are capable of being the greatest ever, but I want to. But
all we would have to do is be better.
It's so much better that it's unbelievable.
No, I think it's just incrementally better, and it's you little steps, and then you see the one at the top, and you don't see, or you're not paying attention to, or you don't know enough about the history of the medium or the boxing or whatever to have seen or know about all of those steps it took to get them to the Muhammad Ali.
Maybe, I don't know. Regardless.
Anyway, the future of Geek Nights.
Nights.
See, we think about this kind of randomly. Usually I bring it up and then Scott poo-poos it or whatever. Let's just do the show and go to bed.
Because that's the thing is, if the show was sort of weekly or bi-weekly or something like that, we could do a lot more thinking about the show and a lot more doing stuff outside the show, but
that's not what people want.
That's not what they want, no. So we do it every night, and as a result, thinking about the future and all sorts of long-term planning and doing things for the show outside of the show itself fall by the wayside in place of doing the actual show every night and then going to bed because I'm tired and I have a job.
Well, in terms of the show itself, I can say with confidence, and we've said this pretty much from the very beginning, that we'll probably keep doing Geek Nights for a very long time, regardless of whatever else we do. And Geek Nights will always be free, no matter what else we do. So even if we make money off of other things, or we go into radio, or we quit, and no matter what, we'll always keep doing Geek Nights. Worst case, we might cut back a few days of Geek Nights, or something like that. But I see us continuing to do the show for many years to come.
Yeah, there'll definitely be at least, probably at the bare minimum, 2 more years of Geek Nights. Probably more, but definitely at least 2 because we renewed the lease for 2, which means we're living here for 2 more years. So while we're living here, we might as well keep making the show.
Well, if you decide
as long as people keep listening.
If you decide to move away, you'll just have to Skype into my podcast.
Or something, I don't know.
Well, that's pretty much what'll have to happen because I'm the only one who knows how to do the audio.
It's not too hard.
Oh, then why don't you do the post-processing
Because I go to bed instead. So, yeah, Geek Nights will definitely be around for a while. The show might change, the format might change, a lot of things about it might change, but will exist in some form for a time to come. And even if we both quit entirely and we give up on the whole thing and we never speak to each other again or something, the show will still be up on the internet for as long as the internet exists and human society.
Or you mean for as long as one of us continues to pay for lip sync?
I'll pretty much pay for that forever.
Yeah.
And
it costs so little.
Yeah, as long as human society doesn't crumble or anything like that, the show will still be there for all time. All right, next. What you'll be doing in 1 year, 2 years, etc.
See, that's really kind of an interesting question, but not interesting in any... I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah.
I was just kind of rambling while I thought of something to say.
I just got a new job.
I'm trying to get promoted in my job, or I'll quit and get a job elsewhere.
Yeah, so I'm pretty likely to keep this job for at least 1 or 2 more years. You know, it's much better than my previous job, which I kept for about almost 2 years, I think. So a better job I'm probably going to keep for an even longer amount of time than that, I could imagine. But that being said, in the long run, I don't know, I kind of want to do something awesome. We keep coming up with crazy ideas like, hey, let's make this kind of business. Let's make that kind of business. Let's run away to Europe. Let's do something.
Well, the thing is, of all of our crazy ideas, Geek Nights is the first one we actually said, all right, let's actually do, well, other than take over the anime club.
Yeah.
Which also succeeded. But then Geek Nights, all right, let's just do a podcast.
Every other idea has been just shit talking.
But every time we do one of our ideas, they're always very successful in pretty short order. Mm-hmm. The problem is, all the ideas that make us money require us to already have money. And if we already had money, we wouldn't bother with the idea because we'd have the money already.
Yep. So
if I had the money to open the hundreds of really good business ideas we have, I would use that money to live an awesome life and not bother with the stupid business.
Exactly. But yeah, in 1 or 2 years, I see myself still working, still going, doing the podcast, still geeking out all the time. Still going to conventions and still doing all the stuff I'm doing now, only more. Maybe I'll go on some awesome vacations and
That seems to be the trend in our lives, pretty much right since we got out of college. Every year, we keep doing the same things, and we keep living the same basic lives, but we keep seeking out more of what we've got. We're making more money, doing more things. It's like we keep expanding in every direction as fast as we can, while still having the 9-to-5 baseline job that provides us income.
Yep.
So, despite the fact that we're pretty big risk takers a lot of the time, we're really not taking any financial risks at all in our lives.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there'd be a point at which we would. I don't know if we would ever stake all our money on something.
Well, I don't know if I'd stake all my money, but in 5 to 10 years when, my car is paid off and my student
And it's time to buy a new car.
And my student loan is paid off.
And it's time to go back to school.
No. When all those things are sort of taken care of, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might do something weird.
See, but the thing is, by then it's too late. Because all of history shows us that if you want to do something, you got to start right away and just do it. And if you wait until it's a better time, or I have the resources now, or I've done all that other stuff, or now I'm finally out of debt. I have a steady job. I have enough money. It never happens. Then you end up being 45. You did nothing with your life except work at a company you hated for 40 years. Well, I guess not 40 years.
That's definitely not going to happen. I'm definitely going to make some sort of move before I'm 30. I can guarantee that.
See, the thing is, pretty much the last 3 or 4 years, and the next 3 or 4 years in general, we're pretty much seriously consolidating all of our wealth and consolidating all of our skills and all of our friends, and bit by bit making moves toward just banding together and doing something awesome.
Yep. All right. What do you think the show will be like? Same format /
I don't know. I don't see the format of the show changing very much.
Well,
everyone likes it. We had someone steal the format. Well, not steal, but ask us if they could use it.
Yeah. I mean, the format is sort of become like an old pair of shoes. You know, it's broken in. It fits. It's comfortable. The thing is, you know, and I don't see myself changing it because it's comfortable and I'm lazy. But I do see us, we decided we're going to try to, you know, experiment outside of the show itself.
We'll talk about that at the end of this.
Yeah. So, Geeknights itself, the format may or may not change if, you know, things happen. Like, let's say, you know, things of the day dry up for some reason, or, you know, we decide to do more of something, or we come up with something new that's like just crazy popular, or...
Well, one long-term format change, which would probably come about if we got stupidly popular. Like, if we hit the 50 to 100,000 listener mark, then I could see, just for the fact of expedience, of the things we'd have to be doing, and at that time it would be a full-time job and those sorts of things, I could see the 4 nights of Geek Nights always existing, and yet it wouldn't always be just myself and Scott.
Yeah. If the
I could see, it'd be like syndication, or internal kind of, like Mondays with Scott and Alex, and Tuesdays with Rim and Scott, and Wednesdays with blah, 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 something like that.
Yeah, because if the show is just that big and we're just doing it crazily, which I don't see happening, but if it does, then it's going to be sort of too big for 2 people to sit down and do the show 4 nights a week.
Plus, at that point, we'd have to expand. We'd have to definitely have more shows, more topics, more things. There'd probably be a whole cluster of Geek Nights. It would probably be every day at that point.
Well, I imagine we would go with the whole Front Row Crew Studios, and we would produce many things, and only one of those things, the flagship, would be Geek Nights, and we would make many other things that would be produced by the same studio that aren't Geek Nights.
Yep, because that is one of the reasons a lot of people actually ask, or at least you probably wonder, how come Geek Nights is at www.frontrowcrew.com? And we've talked about the origin of the Front Row Crew. That's basically the catch-all name for the group of people we have surrounded ourselves with, who we say we're friends, but we're really more like family as a group. And a lot of people external to us have pointed this out to us.
Yeah, that's how it is.
And we generally put all our stakes together, and we generally are all together on any venture. And I see us collectivizing more and more as time goes on creatively.
Yep. So that's the reason it's frontrowcrew.com. And yeah. All right. So if you just move on. Okay.
All right.
I didn't have anything
I think there
else to
could
say.
be a more... See, we're talking about show format. I think you could have handled all the segues a better way. But
Yeah, perhaps. Yes.
Perhaps.
So the show will be like, in terms of format, there'll be better segues in the future. And not the kind where you stand on the stick with 2 wheels and roll around town with Steve Wozniak. Not that.
So the next one, I'll use the Scott segue here. Where will your career be?
Well, there was one before that.
Oh, was there? Oh, I totally missed that. And we're not going to edit that out either.
Good job, Rim.
Actually, a lot of people ask me about how we edit the show and that sort of thing. And in fact, I do give props to Anime Pulse after we kind of reamed them on the show. The Ichigo guy actually came to me and was like, so how do I edit? How do I do all these things you were talking about?
Yeah.
I'm actually writing I wouldn't call it a book because it's not going to be that long. It'll probably be about 30 to 50 pages at most.
It'd be like a PDF.
Yeah, I'm writing a guide on how to podcast that I'm probably going to publish under the Creative Commons and probably actually publish too, because it wouldn't cost that much.
Yeah, just, type it in with like the LaTeX or the PDF or something.
Yep, I posted the barest, like alpha crapo version in the forums, but it's got a long way to go and I'm working on it whenever I have time.
Yeah, I always give respect because quite often, if I see someone doing something that's not so smart, I'll go to them and I'll be like, hey, why don't you do it this better way? And you'd be surprised how often people say, asshole know-it-all. Don't be, treating me like an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm just trying to help you out. It's like, what the hell's your problem? So when someone says, oh, you know something I don't know, please share your knowledge. I wish to be enlightened. They are someone I can respect. And it's like, I made fun of you, and you say, all right, how can I do better? Then you get the thumbs up.
But despite all the talk I gave people on how to edit, in terms of Geek Nights, we actually edit almost nothing out of the show. The only thing that is ever edited out of a show is occasionally we'll stop talking for some reason, and I just cut that out. But even that's pretty rare. Yep. And I shorten silences between words with a filter, so it's totally automatic. I don't have to do anything. And other than that, the show is pretty much recorded live, and it's very rare that anything more than a second or two is ever cut out of the show.
Yep. All right, so the next one. Your plans to break into mainstream media, ?
Well, I think we would handle that more along because it's really a two-part question. In terms of, before we even get to mainstream media, we need to break out completely among nerds and geeks. Because, you all obviously like the show, and we gain an average of, I think, 1.6 new listeners per day every calendar day.
Did you figure that out?
I figured that out a long time ago. I think it's actually gone up since then.
All right.
But literally, every single day, we get new listeners. And obviously, everyone who listens seems to like us. And despite, we never really advertise, we never really do anything other than the show.
We promote at conventions, but that's it.
And even then, promoting at conventions is a recent thing that we didn't really do, partly because we weren't sure how to go about it. And we've always felt really kind of odd trying to plug ourselves to people. Like, hey, listen to this podcast. Yeah. It's on the internet.
Also, I'm not confident that the promoting at the conventions works. We gave all those CDs out at Katsucon. How many people listen to the show now because of the Katsucon CD? If you discovered us via the Katsucon CD, please email us.
Yes, we're curious. This will help us out. Because actually, I did see a spike on feed hits, a fairly significant one after Katsucon. But it wasn't as big as you would expect. But then again, we actually promoted ourselves very little at the con.
Yeah, we could have done better.
Yeah.
So anyway, the way I see it, right, is that, the mainstream media, if some, radio station came along and said, hey, can we syndicate your show on our whatever, right? I'd be like, well, you can follow the Creative Commons license. But since you're commercial, you probably can't do that. So if you want, can make a deal with you, and I would probably let them syndicate the show in exchange for money. And I'd be more than happy to do so.
I've explored a few syndication options, and it basically comes down to the fact that terrestrial radio is right out because of the FCC.
Yep.
And we occasionally say the word fuck, so you can't do that.
Fuck that then.
Because we wouldn't censor ourselves ever.
Nope.
And I've looked into it. It's not that far out of the realm to get syndicated on satellite radio for us. Honestly, the more I've looked into it, it's really not that far out of the realm. However, I think that we need a little more consistency in the show before we could do that. And I'm not really willing to conform the show into that kind of format.
Yeah, it's like with satellite radio, your show has to be exactly a number of seconds long. And you need to put this beeping noise at the end so that when you send the MP3 to the satellite radio guy, he can run it through his thing to go.
And there's also a few, when it comes to commercial syndication like that, there are a few minor gray areas in terms of copyright. Because while we have permission from the author of the song we use in the beginning of the show, the song is based on a commercial property. And it's not a parody, but it's really kind of this gray area.
Yeah.
And we'll obviously never get in trouble using it as we have. But if we started selling the show straight up syndicated commercially, there's a tiny chance of legal trouble. And I haven't had a chance to have my lawyer look over it, partly because that's really not on the horizon in the next year or so, at least.
Also, it says everyone seems to assume, oh, you're doing this amateur deal to break into the real deal. Well, you know what? I say this is the real deal. It might not be the real deal right now. But in the long run, the new media, the blogs, the podcasts, the web comics, the YouTube videos, in the long run, all that stuff is going to replace the current mainstream media, the TV, the movie theater, the newspaper. All that stuff is going to go away, and all the stuff that us geeks are doing is going to be the replacement. So we might not be the mainstream now, but we're basically on the boat that is going to become the mainstream, and the old Titanic is going to sink. And why should we bother to jump onto the sinking boat while it's the happening place. We can just wait on our nice happy boat until it becomes the happening place.
So thus, the question becomes more importantly simply your plans to break into anything, to actually break out. And starting this year, we're really going to start promoting ourselves, but not in the traditional way. We're never going to pay for ads or anything like that. At least I don't see us doing that.
Mostly because mostly because I'm anti-advertising, and it's sort of hard to complain about ads and then buy some, even though I don't mind being hypocritical.
Well, too, the kind of people who would like Geeknights are the kinds of people who run ad block.
Yep, and also, I am not confident that the amount of money we would have to pay to get any sort of advertising would actually give us any sort of return in listenership that we want.
So I guess I'm not going to give you our whole 5-year plan. Sorry, I got Twilight
Don't
Struggle.
call it that. It'll fail.
I got Twilight Struggle on the mind.
Yeah.
But the first phase of kind of the next wave, because if you look at our graph of listenership, we have surges and then plateaus. It's always surge, plateau, surge, plateau. And every surge is after we figure something out or we do something different, usually with how people find out about us. And this time around, we're really starting to break out into the anime and gaming convention circuit. And not in the old way where we just put flyers around and we did like one panel on this is how to do a podcast on the internet at Sunday morning. And now we're doing like Kineticon. We're going to run like 8 or 9 events there. And this all stems back to Kineticon last year where we had, we were walking around and promoting ourselves and we had flyers and it wasn't really working. So eventually we basically stole someone's Artist Alley table.
Well, it wasn't really stealing an empty one. It was we knew the person.
Yes.
It was cool.
We still stole it from them, but
Yes.
not that they were using it.
No, they weren't.
So we're sitting there and we're just talking like we do on the show because you realize that we have conversations like this regardless of whether or not anyone's here.
Yep.
We're just angled a little more toward each other instead of toward you. But if there's a third person here...
Toward you who's not here. Toward you who is a metal stick that cost about $80.
But we gave up on trying to promote our show, and no one wanted our stupid little flyer. No one cared.
Yeah, I mean, if I go to conventions, people give me flyers, I throw them out.
Usually I get the big pile, and I sit it on my desk, and I think, all right, once I get free time, I'm going to go through all these, because I obviously picked them up for a reason.
Doesn't happen.
And then a month later, I see this pile of papers. What's that? And I throw it away.
Yep. I mean, once I was given a CD in Artist Alley at Otakon, and I actually put it in my computer. The thing is, the CD was done in such a way that I couldn't actually explore the content on it with great ease. And, but I did put it in my computer when I got home. And it had some flash animations and things that they weren't so good. But I don't even remember who made the thing. So
yeah, but the idea was there.
Yeah, it was actually, hey, they gave me a thing and I actually checked it out. Hence, the audio CD at Katsucon. And apparently, people did listen to that audio CD at Katsucon. I just don't think it translated into people subscribing to the podcast because I've yet to see anyone say that they started listening because of the Katsucon CD.
But then again, the percentage rule. I mean, maybe a tiny percentage of the people who listen will ever bother with the forums or emailing us or anything. Because I know how many people listen, and I know how many people post in the forums, and there's a big discrepancy between the two.
There's a lot of people who sign up for the forums and never post. And a lot of people read the forums and they don't post anything. I'm like, what? All right, listen, everybody. Whether you're the kind of person who posts in forums or not, if you're just the lurking, shy...
There's nothing wrong with lurking, Scott.
I know, passive listener who just listens to the show and doesn't do anything else, I don't care. Send us one email or make one post in the forums and then go back to your lurking ways. I want to know you exist. Prove it to me, because I don't believe it.
Yeah, for all we know, we have one listener with 1,000 IP addresses.
Yeah, and he just keeps hitting the side on all of them all the time. All right.
But basically, we're there, and we gave up on promoting, so we're just talking to each other, and we start arguing, and then someone at the table next to us starts arguing with us. Not an angry argument, but a friendly argument. I think we were talking about video games or something.
Something like that.
And 2 people were walking by, and they stop, and they stand there kind of across the hall, just watching our little group and listening to us talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, other people start talking, and someone walks up, and they start talking to us, and we're like, yeah, at the end of the conversation, we're like, yeah, we do a show. And they're like, really? Well, I'd really like to listen to that. And we've realized that the best way to promote ourselves is to just do the things we do and to run events and to actually do awesome things. And if people think that things are awesome, they'll seek us out, as opposed to trying to convince people that we're awesome with a piece of paper that says our name on it.
Yeah. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, listeners, but I think the selling point of the show is our personalities. So the best way I think that we can promote the show.
Well, my personality.
Right. Is to put. I'm not talking about personality in that sense. Talking about our personalities as nouns. Not the right. Is to just put that out there for people to experience, and if people like what they experience, then they will want more. It's sort of like giving out free samples of the real deal live in person, as opposed to a CD, which isn't really a free sample because the whole show's free. Yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, but we're starting to do this at cons. I mean, KatsuCon last year, I guess this past one, we ran the anime match game in the smallest panel room, but we filled it to overflowing, and everyone there really, really loved it, and they even went to the con feedback and said, man, those guys were awesome, bring them back.
Yep.
So next year, I imagine we're going to run a whole bunch of events, and Kineticon, we're going to run a whole bunch of events, and Anime Next hasn't gotten back with me, but I'm working on that. And Otakon, I think we're going to run a bunch of events.
Yep. So you seem to be doing pretty well with the promoting at the anime, and we could also do the gaming cons, even though they're less panel-oriented. But
well, UberCon we'll be fine at, except there was no spring UberCon this year.
Yeah. But I think we do need to find some way to promote more into the other geeky areas.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I'd go to PenguinCon every year. I'm sure we could rock PenguinCon.
Oh, we could totally rock PenguinCon.
But PenguinCon's in Michigan, and while driving to Michigan from Rochester wasn't so bad, driving there from here really sucks.
Yep. And all the other tech conferences are sort of not even accessible to us, really. Like, they either cost a lot of money, and they're meant for business professionals, on business trips.
And they're all useless. I could do a show on how stupid those things are. But...
yeah. And there's other kinds where it's like a bunch of hackers get together for a weekend to code something. And while those have pretty cool atmospheres, I really don't have time for that. It's like I got to code my own stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we went to an event like that, we wouldn't be...
like DEF CON or something.
We wouldn't be performers. We'd just be press, covering it.
Yeah.
And as we've learned, being press at an event, while interesting for us, is not interesting for anyone else, so no one has any reason to remember us.
Yeah.
I mean, what? You're going to remember the guy who shoves a microphone in your face and asks you why you're dressed up like Sailor Moon despite the fact that you weigh 700 pounds?
Yeah, it's definitely all about being the entertainer and not reporting on the entertainment. All right, let's go to the next question. Where your career will be.
Well, see, in both of our jobs, we basically have taken turns leapfrogging each other in terms of salary. And neither one of us has ever been satisfied with a job pretty much ever.
No, I mean, this is the best job, maybe the best job yet. And it's, I can't see doing this for the rest of my life. Let me just say that much.
Plus, we constantly make less money than we should be making, and every time we get a new job, we make more money.
Yep. So, we'll see where this job goes. I mean, I've only been here a month. But, I'll change it eventually, almost definitely.
Yep. I'm actually gunning for a promotion at my job because basically, the job I do, while fairly technical, I could teach some high school kid how to do it in like a couple days.
Yeah.
And I could make at least $20K more doing the actual network architecture stuff. So I'm actually pushing to get a promotion. If I don't get the promotion, I might just quit.
Yep. I mean, ideally, I would very much like to do something I wanted to do, like run a computer repair shop in town, or, be a baker. Or my dream job has always been to, like, be the high school computer teacher, but that is not a possible job. It just doesn't exist, and it doesn't pay enough for me to live.
Yeah,
if it did exist.
I mean, even if we lived in a high-paying school district, like a really good school district.
Or even at a private school.
Yeah, we'd make less money working as a teacher, like far less money than we make now doing our crap jobs for relatively little salary compared to the median in this area.
Yeah. I mean, sure, the teachers get summer off, but even if you factor that in, we'd still be making less money. And also, they won't let me be just a computer teacher, and they won't let me decide the computer curriculum, and they won't let me make all the important technology decisions that I need to make. They're just going to say, all right, you teach math 4 periods a day, and then you teach one crappy computer class on these shit computers to these kids who don't give a shit, and it's just not worth it. But I know that if I was in charge of teaching computers, then that would be the best job in the world, and every kid who went to that school, because it would totally be a mandatory class every freaking semester to be with me and learn about computers, every kid who came out of that school would be a computer master and could just go to RIT and get a degree in like 6 months. So, well, maybe not 6 months. It is kind of hard, but
yeah.
much
You see,
less than 5 years.
it seems a lot easier because we always look back on it with our current experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back on sysadmin class, and I remember having so much trouble making bind work in Red Hat. And now it's just like...
Yeah, needless, the kids would be on the fast track to graduating, and many of their early classes would be extremely easy.
Pretty much our careers, we're going to continue to make more money. And the moment we stop making more money, or we have the resources to do what we want to do, we're going to do what we want to do as soon as we can.
Yep, and unless something crazy happens, like a lottery winning, or so we're discovered by someone with a lot of money who decides they want to, invest in us.
We need the old wealthy benefactor who has millions hidden in Europe.
It's called an angel investor, I think is the current buzzword.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. Unless something crazy like that happens, we're going to keep working 9 to 5, coming home and doing a show and having fun on the weekend until for the foreseeable future.
All right, so this last one here, because I just looked at we've been going on this pretty long, actually, for an easy, lazy Thursday.
Yep.
But married,
it is easy.
Married, children, etc. And in parentheses, this one always makes me laugh about how Rim says he will never have kids, etc. Well, I really don't plan to have kids. And in general, anytime I would look at it, one, I don't even have time to take care of a dog. Because if I had time to take care of a dog, you can bet your ass that I would have a dog. Right now, I love dogs. I live my whole life with dogs. The fact that I don't have a dog right now bothers me constantly.
Well,
Yet, a kid takes slightly more effort than a dog and costs a little bit more money. So, kids right out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about animals, but if I had time, I'd have a fish. I'd have a little fish in a fish tank. I don't have time for the fish in a fish tank. And all you have to do is shake some food in there and clean the tank like once a month. And I don't have time for that.
And I also hate to say it, but in general, having a kid would pretty much remove about 70% of the options that I have now that I want to pursue in my later life. Because the amount of money and the amount of time, the amount of resources I would have to spend, I'm not saying I wouldn't get anything out of that. I'm not saying people shouldn't have kids. But it would definitely take away from me most of the things that I actually want to do with the rest of my youth.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, there goes all those conventions. There goes all that geekery right out the window. No more time to play Pokemon.
Yeah, if I had a kid,
feed the baby.
There'd be no more Geeknights. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's pretty much 100%. There'd be no more sleep. I mean, talk about not sleeping now. Imagine if you had a kid. There'd be no sleeping at all, period. Kids
Plus,
up all night screaming.
I generally have seen that most of the people I've known who had kids, I mean, they're still cool people, but they can't run in the same circles that we run in. And I don't want to stop running in these circles at all. And we have actually 2 friends they're getting married very soon. We're looking forward to that. But they are planning eventually on having kids. And I wish them the best of luck, but I wonder how much they're going to be able to continue to go to anime cons and that sort of thing. At least for the first several years they have the kid.
Yeah, I mean, once the kid is like, I don't know.
Sentient?
Yeah, like 10-ish. Like later elementary
Then it'll be
school.
awesome because Scott and I can be those crazy uncles who teach the kid the real business about the world, like the flying spaghetti monster, and how to hack their parents' computers.
Yep. But until then, the kid's basically just a big bucket that you have to fill with food and money and empty out because all the food and money turns into piss and shit and vomit. As for me, I don't know. I mean, I'm constantly looking for some woman, but I don't find any.
You're looking so hard.
I know. That's mostly the reason I haven't found anyone is because I spend my time doing geekery because, frankly, as much as I would like some sort of female companionship, my geekery is more important. And that also sort of precludes female companionship because any sort of the such would reduce the geekery, which I don't want to do.
Except it really doesn't. I mean, everyone I've ever dated in my life has been really geeky and really into all the things I'm into.
And I haven't found anyone like that I want to get with. So that's just how it is.
Also, consider the fact that all the women we know are very attractive and very cool and very geeky.
Yeah, and how many of them are like potential whatnots? 0.
I don't know. I'm not going to get into that with you. We've had this argument offline because I don't want to embarrass anyone. But I would say that a good number of the people in our extended group of friends are pretty attractive and pretty much right. I don't know what your problem is with them.
They're all taken, or I don't like them in that way.
Oh, you don't like them. You just basically told.
I said I don't like them in that way. There's a difference between
Ah.
liking someone and liking someone in that way.
So what would it take?
I like a lot of people.
What would your perfect girl be?
I don't know. I know you know it when you see it. Like, good boxing when you see Muhammad Ali beat someone up.
But I think we established that doesn't end well because you can't actually ever find it or anything.
Regardless, I'm not putting that too much effort into looking, even though it's something I'd like to find.
Yeah, that's the excuse. I'm just not looking.
Well, it is true. I mean, when was the last time I put any effort into looking?
But you go to all these cons.
And what do I do with those cons?
Well, you could go be social.
And I don't do that, really.
I guess you don't.
But, yeah. So, if I happen to find someone, that'd be pretty cool. Getting married? If I got married, it would be sort of like a financial decision. Because I really have no value in the institution of marriage. The only value I would have is, hooray, we can combine our money into one bank account and pay less taxes. That's really, I mean, there might be some woman that I spend the rest of my life with and love more than anyone and all that, but I wouldn't get married or have any sort of weird ceremonies or anything like that. I would just go to a courthouse and sign a paper if it was beneficial to do so.
Well, I mean, Emily and I have been together for many years now, and marriage really isn't on the docket at all. But it doesn't mean that we're in any way thinking about breaking up or anything. And I foresee us being together pretty much unless something happens for the rest of our lives. Yeah. But I don't really see if we'd ever get married.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, like, if I did have a wedding, it would be go down to the courthouse, give the judge $10, sign a paper, go home.
Well, that's what my mom did when she got remarried. They went to the courthouse, they had a little ceremony, and then they just had a crazy barbecue party at home.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan to me.
With a roast pig, and it was pretty awesome.
I'd probably, get a party at the Dave & Buster's, but that's fine, too. And having kids, I don't know. See, it's sort of hard because I'm sort of the mind that, I would like to have kids, because I imagine, having a kid and raising him to be, or him or her to be all awesome like me and all that good stuff. But it's like if I do it while I'm young, I sort of ruin my own life in a way that Rim just said. But I don't want to be like Penn Jillette and do it when I'm old, because then it sucks for the kid. He doesn't have too much time with me and almost no time with grandparents. And as a recent kid, I valued that time quite a bit. So it's sort of like I can either make a kid now and make him real well, but it'll suck for me, or I can make it later and it'll suck for the kid.
Hence, I decided to just not have a kid.
Yeah. So if I did ever make a kid on purpose, it would have to be at this exact perfect timing, where I had lived enough of my awesomeness that I didn't need any more, but it was still early enough in my life where I could raise the kid well and his life wouldn't suck either. See, he wouldn't have a 40-year-old, 50-year-old dad when he was 3.
I think that's one point where we're different, where I don't think I would ever not continue to be ambitious. Because, everyone who knows me in person knows that I am continually and permanently ambitious, and I'm always seeking more than I have. And while I could be very happy with something, usually when it comes to, life, fortune, property, that sort of thing, I always kind of test the waters that could I have more? Could I have a bigger house? Could I have more money? Yeah. Could I travel more? Could I, anything like that? Could I have more power? Could I get into politics? If I was a congressman in the House of Representatives, I'd be gunning for the Senate. If I was in the Senate, I'd be gunning for the presidency. Yep. If I was the president, I'd be gunning for the UN. Yep. If I was the head of the world, I'd be gunning for Space King.
Yeah, but I look and I see there are quite a few people, in fact, most people in positions much higher than we are, who have kids. Bill Clinton has a kid. He's got way ahead of us in terms of ambition. So it is possible to have a kid and still keep the ambition going strong. The thing is, I wondered, how do those kids turn out? Does that have a strong effect on them? Who knows? So,
well, how much did she see her dad? He was probably busy much of the time.
Yeah, it's do I want to have a kid if I'm not going to see them? I don't know. Those are decisions for a later time, because right now there isn't even one to make a kid with. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I'm definitely liking the idea of a dink. I remember I never realized when I was young watching Doug that Mr. Dink is actually one of those acronyms that came out when they're in the days when they're calling people yuppies and guppies and all those things. And no, we are not guppies, despite the fact that we've been called such more than once. Mm-hmm. But DINK stands for dual income, no kids. And considering the fact that the household right now of Scott and I, we make fairly significantly over 6 figures as a household. And if Emily moves in with us, we're making a fairly stupid amount of money, especially considering our expenses.
Yep.
And if I think how much money my parents made if they hadn't had to deal with me or my little brother, or how much money I have if I don't have to spend it on something like a kid, I'll live in relative luxury for the rest of my life.
It's especially because we're not, we follow that if you don't have the money, don't buy anything.
Don't buy shit you can't afford.
Yeah, as we basically don't live above our means. We spend less than we make, and we're always profiting. Every month I look at my checking account, and no matter how much nerdy shit I try to buy more comics, I try to buy more video games. And at the end of the month, I go, oh man, I think I bought too many video games this month. I bought like 2 DS games and a Wii game, and I bought like a $200 box of comics. Oh, this is going to hurt. And I look, and every month without fail, the balance of my checking account increases by a lot.
Sadly,
every time.
Mine's been pretty steady, but I spend a lot more time and money on going out to eat and entertainment and transient things.
I do quite a bit of those things as well, but my checking account just keeps going up. I don't know what's going on. It scares me. But yeah.
Kids would just ruin that.
Kids would completely ruin that. I'd probably go into horrible debt. But as long as I don't go into horrible debt, as long as I stay employed, we're doing all right.
All right, I think we should wrap this up. We've been talking for almost an hour just on this.
I guess that guy sent a good email. I hope people actually liked the episode.
Basically, he said, well, Rim, talk about yourself and talk about the awesome things you do and the awesome things you want to do. How long could that possibly take?
Well, let's see if anyone actually liked this episode or if they thought it was terrible.
Yeah, it is going to be one of those rare episodes that gets the meta tag, which we used to do a lot early on when we do shows like, what the fuck are we going to do with Monday nights? We can't talk about science. We got over that pretty quick.
Yep.
Or, how are we going to fix the show? Or, oh, these microphones suck. We kind of got past all that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing that we got past all that, because those kind of shows are so beginning podcaster.
Yeah, a little hint, because this is part of that book I'm writing. Before we end, if you're a prospective podcaster, pretty much the worst thing you can do beyond, actual bad, serious problems is to constantly say the word podcast in your podcast.
Or to talk about your podcast in the meta a lot.
Yep. I mean, a lot of people, they always call their show the blah, blah, blah podcast. And if you call it that, that word still stands out to a lot of people. And it goes from, this is just some show I'm listening to, this is a podcast, those things on the internet.
Yeah, also, people, if you spend your entire show talking about the show that people are listening to, what's your show? It's just something talking about itself. It's just this inverse loop of nothing. Your show, the vast majority of your show, 99% of it, has to be a show about something. If it's a video game show, you shouldn't talk about the show for more than 30 seconds. No matter how... I guess if your show is 5 minutes long, you shouldn't talk about your show itself more than saying the name and then talking about video games the rest of the time.
So, on that note, we'll wrap it up. And remember, you can save the children, but don't save the British children.
God, he's coming.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.